out there, planet Earth, and happy Friday. We have March Madness coming up. We have St. Patrick's Day this Sunday. Hope everyone has a great, safe, no permanent damage type of day to celebrate. But today, it's Friday, and it's always Friday with me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. ICYMI, or in case you missed it, SMB stands for Small and Medium-Sized Business. For the last 20 years, I've been a consultant for SMBs, a voice and a sounding board for our business leaders, advocating on their behalf, their employees too. Everyone, I believe very strongly in sharing stories, providing perspective, and creating connection. All about it. Every single Friday, you could find me here on talkradio.nyc doing just that, lending what's left of my mind and my voice to this radio show, where I interview small, medium-sized business leaders as well as their trusted advisors. One thing that I've noticed rather consistently over the last 20 years, some of the best thought leadership for our business leaders, it actually happens on Friday, just about the time we feel that freedom of the weekend coming. However, we're also anxious to start the weekend. I know I am. These crucial pearls of wisdom, they're often overlooked and they're forgotten in favor of our fun activities and our freedom from the office. Let's face it, we like to cut loose. Here on the show, we take advantage of that weekend freedom and clarity, and we like to discuss some popular topics that are on the minds of our business leaders. Once again, the name of the show, not just a play on words. My last name means free in German, so there is method behind the madness. Between the last show that I did with Coach Keith from Count the Bucket and March Madness coming up, basketball has definitely been on my mind lately. I wanted to thank Coach Keith as well. He came down to my daughter's last game last weekend, gave her a quick shooting lesson and gave some inspirational words to her team, which was totally awesome. The reason that I'm wearing a referee shirt, everyone, is not because I'm breaking up fights between my wife and the contractors who are working on my house. It's because I'm refereeing a game for charity this weekend that includes the Harlem Wizards, kind of like the 21st century version of the Harlem Globetrotters, if you guys remember that. Definitely some fun memories from my childhood. So I'm reffing the game tomorrow with my buddy Coach Berger, Coach Fry. That's not an accident. And get to be part of the show. So I'm very, very excited about that. In the spirit of basketball as well, one thing that's made its way to my social media feed is pictures like this. Dogs on the basketball court, dogs dunking basketballs, totally captivated by it. I had to look further. And one thing that I noticed is the posts on social media were actually coming from my good friend's company. And I started paying a little bit deeper attention to it and invited him to come on the show and hang with us today. So very excited to talk to a longtime friend of mine. I'm going to tee him up in just a moment. But the point that we're going to be kicking around here is looking at the idea of an inventor, but also in reinventing and continually inventing yourself, discovering what's important to you and kind of pursuing your passion, right? The special guest I'm going to speak with today, not only a friend for a very long time, one of the most talented product designer types of folks I've ever spoken to, and lots of people have ever spoken to. But though you guys know the way I feel products, I'm going to remind you again in just a moment. He's so much more about the story these days and what the impact is to the audience that he's trying to design products for. And he's succeeding a great deal because this spoke to me, just some of the social media posts that I see about his company. It really made impact for me personally, instead of just looking at a row of products on a shelf. So, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some thoughts behind how he got to where he is today, for sure. You guys know I always like to start the shows with that. Talk is cheap, and we're not here to just talk. The goal here is let's use the insight that we get on the business landscape and create some more impact on Monday morning. That's it. It's far too often that the folks that I speak with on a regular basis, they're focused on some type of product. And while my guest is a product designer, he knows that it's a lot more about surrounding yourself with the right people first, right? You surround yourself with the right people who can guide you in the right direction. You keep focus on some type of tangible process that's going to help you achieve your goal. The products that you need, they'll be there when you need them. And by the way, whether you're talking personal or business life, they tend to change every day anyway. So something to think about. Anyway, I know I have the right people around me today because I've surrounded myself with this individual for damn near 30 years, a go-to brain of all types, especially when it comes to engineering and re-engineering anything. We're going to be chatting today with my good friend, one of my best friends, Adam Petrucci. He's head of product at the Natural Dog Company. don't know if you guys have heard of that yet. You got to get on there and check it out. So Adam is an experienced product development professional with nearly 2 decades of experience building blue chip brands such as Honeywell. If you've seen an air purifier in the last 10 years, there's a solid chance that Adam had something to do with it along the way. Braun, Vicks, Pure, and launching industry acclaimed products to global markets in a variety of CPG categories, including healthcare tech, home appliance, wellness tech, water purification, juvenile and pet durables. Throughout his career, Adam's primary drive has always been to enrich and improve people's lives by crafting curated human user experiences. Meaningful innovation, sometimes it's altruistic. You have to know your audience and know the consumer. This is something that I talk about with people on a daily basis, so completely agree. Adam's a Long Island native, currently lives in New Jersey. Thank God for that, so I don't have to drive too far to see him. Growing up, his obsessive need to understand how physical things worked by taking everything apart, and I mean everything. I spent a lot of time at his house growing up, gave him a real-life product engineering education. He learned early on that there's usually a better solution than what currently exists. At his core, Adam is a problem solver, maker, tinkerer, and tech geek. Adam is an indiscriminate animal lover. He's a proud cat dad to an adorable Tuxie rescue named Austin, and a dog stepdad to another rescue, a Chihuahua named Tito. So being a lifelong mountain biker, Adam competes in amateur enduro events across the country when he's not working or at home tinkering. Adam holds a BA from Rutgers University and industrial design certifications from Pratt Institute. When I tell you he is the absolute best person to surround yourself with, if you're talking about inventing, reinventing, engineering, taking apart, putting back together. Since I was 16 years old, I would go to his house to figure out damn near anything under the sun. He can help me figure it out. We're going to talk about my favorite questions surrounding movies, TV, and music. I can't forget about that. Joining us today from his home base, one of my favorite oases to go visit, not just because he's got a really cool house. He also doesn't have kids of his own yet, so it's nice and peace and quiet for me to get away. Adam, welcome to the show, brother. So great to have you here.
That was a warm intro, Bubba.
It's what I do, baby. Tee it up like madness. So, like you know that, ever since we were kids, right? Whether it was installing car stereos, redesigning our bedrooms, automating lighting, whatever the hell it was, turning the furnace into a toilet, whatever the project is, you're the guy that not only I would go to, but damn near everybody we know would go to, right? You got to tell us a little bit more about how you got where you are today. Give us some stories about your journey real quick.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was a dork growing up. I mean, it all started from a super young age. I don't know if it's cool to get this personal this quick, but there was, family stuff happens when you're a kid. And for me, my refuge was, I don't know, electronics, tinkering. I think like most parents, Fry, I know you too, we have great families. We have great parents, but our dads are a little bit emotionally handicapped.
Yes.
So like for me, I'm sure with a million other people, like I didn't get too much like good job. I didn't get too much I'm proud of you. So for me, it was sort of, I was always trying to get that out of him, which I'm 43 and I still don't. But it molded me in a lot of ways into who I became. I was always my worst critic. It was never good enough. Someone tell me it's good. So it was almost like me showing the world that I was smart or accomplishing something, even though I didn't get the feedback I needed to get. And inadvertently, for a large part of my career, becoming a tinkerer, I was like, they're paying me to do this now. This is really neat. There was a lot of other stuff with my career. I probably should have been an engineer, but I'm one of those like practical application people.
Right.
Show me a bunch of equations and I go, but show me how it's applied. And all of a sudden, that's a tool I can use. So early in my career, we had a couple of business ventures, this guy and I, but I finally found something that I was good at. It was industrial design. All of a sudden, I found this thing that made me able to apply the mathematics, the analytics to a tangible thing. And that was like the light bulb. I finished Rutgers quick. I got all these certifications in industrial design. And I started on this career path that was really rewarding for me. And I got really good feedback from it. I was really good at something. That's not to say it didn't require all of my guttural effort. It did, but it was something that I understood. It was something that I could say, hey, I'm really good at it. And at the end of the day, like a child, I had this thing. I could say, look at this shiny thing that I just made that's a little bit different. Um, and then that turned into, at first, Steve and I, we had a couple gizmos that, frankly, would have been really good had we just taken it to another level, taken it further. We did all the hard stuff and then stopped at the easy stuff, I think. But a lot of the stuff, a lot of the lessons learned when I was younger, I would just make these cool things that I thought solved a need because they're my need, but they didn't really solve a need. Like with consumers and product development, like you can make cool stuff all day, but you're not selling this LED or this, thing that looks cool. No, you're selling an emotion. Like even later in my career, you're not selling a light on a device. You're selling this light provides peace of mind because they know that it's working properly, etc. So it became just inventing for the sake of inventing, to inventing based on a deep consumer need. And that's evolved into even something that's a little less native to me. And that's all ethnographic based, real consumer understanding to build not even devices, but to build leverage around stories that bond people to things. And doesn't have to be a tech thing. It doesn't have to be in any category thing. It's about understanding that people are buying that human connection and that human need fulfillment, not a thing.
Hits home so hard, Adam. It's stupid. So take a look at some of the products you're working with at the Natural Dog Company. They're products. You're not selling dog treats. You're not selling dog shampoo, whatever it is, right? This is when I see stuff like this online. This was something I took a snapshot of and sent it to Adam the other day, and it precipitated a bunch of this conversation. This popped its way into my feed, and it's talking about, for dogs, this is a 10 out of 10. If you have digestive issues, if you have dry skin, all that. Like, I noticed my dog recently has kind of dandruff going on with him. It's when you have a dog that's got mostly black fur going on, you see a lot more of that crap. But his skin's definitely dry. So I was like, you know what? That makes sense to me. Like, this is something I can identify with. I see it on a daily basis right now. It's not about buying whatever schmutz it is. You spray it onto the food, right? Is that what it is? You spray it onto the food, that stuff?
It's topper. And what you're seeing is just very, very superficial key terminology. It goes so much deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it goes so much deeper, and I know, like, we're going to talk about the method behind the madness in just a few minutes here. I know that you and I both can geek out for hours on all kinds of science and behind everything, but, where
nuts and bolts. We both like nuts and bolts, but the nuts and bolts are not the thing.
Yeah, it's not the thing. It's like you can show up and throw up all kinds of nuts and bolts and product knowledge. When we get to, the real story-based part, the stuff that you've seen from the field, when we talk about the madness of your world, that's the stuff that people latch onto. It's not just me making alliteration for the sake of alliteration. There's a reason we talk about the method. There's a reason we talk about the madness here on Always Friday. So, I love the thought, Adam. Like, if we go back in your resume, children's furniture, the Maxell Corporation, where it's always have the guy sitting in the chair with the music blown away that you have that picture in your house, children's furniture, car seats, like all this type of stuff. Like, and you made it somehow to the air purifiers and all of that. It's crazy to me, like that. Now it's dog treats, but the important thing is not the product.
Dog supplements.
Sorry, dog supplements. Natural, organic dog supplement.
natural dog supplements. Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes no sense in the abstract, but it makes perfect sense.
It's exactly. It's one of those things that makes no sense, but yet makes perfect sense. So we're going to make more sense of it when we come back from this break. We're chatting with one of my best friends for a long time and a guru in his own right. This is Adam Petrucci. He's head of product with the Natural Dog Company. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Friday. It's always Friday. And it's me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. We are chatting with Adam Petrucci. He's head of product at the Natural Dog Company. I've been doing the show for 3.5 years. It's so great to finally have on like somebody from my intimate crew of friends and talk a little bit about, you know, who you are, what you do, how you do it, all that jazz. Before we dive into the method behind the madness, I want to sit just out by the fire pit. It's something that I like to do just for a brief moment here and just give a quick perspective on, you know, what we're talking about here. So the fact that you are a head of product yourself and you've recognized at this point that it's all about the people and it's all about the story and it's all about the emotions that people latch onto. That's people buy predominantly based on emotion. In order to care, people have to feel something. And otherwise, it just kind of becomes noise, and that's when a lot of times things get commoditized, right? Like if they just look at product knowledge, right, and you know your supplements have the same ingredients that 4 other brands have, it'll become the race to zero. Everyone will just look for the cheapest thing, blah blah blah. But when you can tell a good story and you can connect with people, like even just that tip of the iceberg, a couple of things I mentioned in the last segment that I saw on social media where I was like, well, damn, you know what? Samson's got that issue. Like this might actually be for him. You know, that's the stuff that people can really connect with, especially somebody like you who, you know, I never really looked at it through this vein before, but you are a crazy animal lover. You have Austin, your cat, you have Tito, the dog, you have your koi pond that you take care of meticulously. And I didn't even remember when this happened, but what was this deal with rescuing the deer? What was this?
Yeah, so with products, man, like there have been categories that I couldn't relate to early in my career. Children's furniture. I don't have kids. I was in my 20s. The hell did I know?
Oh, thank you for working there, by the way. That was extremely helpful for when I had kids.
I'm glad that all worked out for you. And is it awesome still to see, like, I made this Hot Wheels license table and I gave it to my nephew. Was that an amazing thing to that was like the first bridge to connection that I had. Because until then I was designing these like toyetic things for me because I didn't have any kids. Later in my career, it became very interesting. Like, yeah, I have this thing with tech, so I always wanted to get into tech because the tech itself excited me. Mm-hmm. As the career progressed, it became less about the thing and more about the human connection with it. And so I'll go right into right now. Worked with a large consumer electronics company for many, many years. Sort of made an exit. And in the process, I was like, well, shit, I'm in my 40s now. Like, is this what I still want to do? And the catharsis was, at this point, I have my crew. I have you, and I have the call it 7, 8 best friends that I grew up with that are my world. And I'm lucky enough to have made some professional connections like that. And I got to this cathartic moment where I'm like, what do I really want? Because I was sort of at a crossroad. I can go right back into tech, and I know what that world looks like. And it's tough. Anything. So I was managing the industrial design process for several big consumer brands. It's very cutthroat. It's very, as you would think it would be. Industrial design is a very small industry. It's a very specified industry, or like very specific set of skills. And frankly, in the tri-state area, there aren't many jobs because there aren't many of us that do it. And it's one of those things that a lot of the time now it's farmed out. So I didn't want to move to the Midwest. I didn't want to move to some whatever. And beyond all of that, what do I love? What is my thing? I have a very deep connection with animals, and pets was an industry that I really wanted to get into. It's got nothing to do with the state of the industry, which it turns out it's a booming industry at the moment. But it was about that deep connection that, we all go through our problems. Like even in the past 5-10 years, it's sort of like one of those, like, who's carrying who? Yep. It's a cat. I've become so just addicted to this little living thing. And I was going to do this maybe a little bit later, but growing up, and this isn't to get biblical, my parents had this thing in the bedroom, in the bathroom, actually, in their bedroom bathroom. And it was footsteps in the sand. This is going to sound super corny. It's true. Yeah. And it was like, it's about God. And, I'm not that religious or anything like that. And it was all those times that were my hardest times. It was only, I always saw 2 footsteps. There was only one set of footsteps during those times. And it was then that I carried you. And it sounds corny, but that's what they do. It's like, who needs who? Yeah, we feed them, we care for them, but they give you so much more back. And this is not like some like foofy thing. Like, I would give anything, just like my grandmother who died at 98, God bless, she had a great life. If you could tell me that I could help this thing live one more day, I would give everything I own for it. And that was when it hit me. I'm like, I really want to do something that is animal, that is pet, that is meaningful to me. So I was interviewing with tech, and then I sort of saw this company, and I was looking a little bit into pet, but not too deeply. And it was, if I told you the irony of within, I think it was like a minute and 15 seconds, the whole time between accepting and another one reaching out, and that would have been the path that I was on, a minute and 15 seconds changed everything. Anyway, this thing with the deer, it was one of those. So I was, so like you said, I have 2 pork ponds, one big one in the back, and I live up against the woods. And I heard this, like, it sounded like a frog. So I look over and I see a freaking deer head. I'm like, you joking me? And I walk out and I'm like, what do I even do with this thing? Like, do I touch it? Is it okay? It was like this cute little doe, like, I'm like, okay. So what do? Jump in the water, yank the thing out, run inside, take the rug from underneath my sink, bring it outside, get a bunch of towels, wrap him up, hold him, and like just dry him off and whatever. And the thing's sitting there and not purring, but like doing this like I know they have like a
yep.
It was a baby deer. I didn't know if I was going to get kicked in the head or what, but none of those things occurred to me until he was in my arms. And I didn't know what to do. So I put him on the thing, and then I run to Tractor Supply, and I'm like, I have a baby deer that can't. And he was so weak from, I guess, struggling to try to get out of the water. He couldn't even stand up, this poor little thing. So he was laying outside on the rug. Run to Tractor Supply, whatever. I go, and I'm like, what do I do? What do I give for a baby deer? Well, they're like, okay, you got to watch him for a day because he's probably too weak to move around, blah, blah, blah. So I wound up getting him like goat milk and like poking a hole in like a latex glove and feeding him that way. And I wound up keeping him in my garage overnight because he couldn't stand up still. So they were like, if you can, keep him overnight to get his strength up. Long story short, I'm like, I did it. I did it without thinking about it. Did it not for any other thing other than that's the right thing to do for animals. And that's sort of like how I am with all of them. Long story short, I don't know if you guys remember, I'm dating myself now, that City Slickers movie.
Oh yeah.
With the cow that he brought home. Well, I named him Norman. Well, I brought Norman to the edge of the backyard the next day, and I put him behind the fence and I let him go. And the thing started walking. He was following me back into the house. It was the sweetest, cutest. We give animals no credit. We eat them. But there was another circumstance where like I met this like lamb, and we domesticate animals like cats and dogs, and we think like none of them have that kind of connection with you, that kind of camaraderie with you, that kind of companionship with you, that kind of they're all the same. So for me, animals are all the same. This is just one of those things that I'm like, I've always put them before self, and you do what you can. And to this day, Norman always makes an appearance in my backyard with his parents. And it was a month ago or something. He'll sometimes show up by the side door just to say hello. Like it's a gaze out the window. Yeah, like this. I'm not making it up. It sounds crazy, but like they're all the same. We're all the same. So
you know, as often as I go to your house, I've never heard you tell this story. And you know, as far as the method behind the madness, the science before the art, it's like you could talk about all kinds of schematics and whatnot for the products you've developed, which I don't want you to do that. That would potentially put some folks to sleep. Not that it's not interesting, especially to me. I dig it.
No, it's boring.
I'm trying to sugarcoat it here a little bit, but stories like that is like actually caring about animals enough. And I see like my younger one, Sloan, who I bring over your house to play with Tito all the time. Like she loves your dog. You know that. She doesn't. She's like a terrorist. Otherwise, in every other aspect of life, she loves animals, and it gives me hope. Maybe she'll be a veterinarian, something like that. But just being able to care and have passion for a particular topic, and then pursue, what your skill set, really dictates in the guise of a passionate, passionate story and a passion, like something that really makes you who you are. It's so rewarding. It's got to feel so cool what you're doing now. And it's like miles away from where you started.
Yeah, it's scary as hell sometimes because it was something I was walking away from, not only the position, but an industry that I knew well. I knew that I was really good at. Like when I left work, whenever the end of the day, I knew I killed it. And I knew I was building, our consumer reputation. I knew. Going from knowing to not knowing is scary. Yeah, I know we got to take a break in a minute, but
when I talk about the method behind the madness, right? I talk about what do you do, how do you do it, and how do you go to market for it. And one thing that's really big with you that I've noticed, especially with some of the social media stuff as of late, is that for somebody who was really big nuts and bolts for a long time, and I consider myself this way as well. A lot of times we're like the same brain, right? The first half of my career was very much nuts and bolts, how to put the gun together and take it apart and try to be as efficient as possible, all of that. But the last half of my career has infinitely been more about, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and it's what other people hear, and it's how they feel and how they engage with you. That's it.
Yeah, I'll get back into when we get back, sort of when I began this latest stage of my career. How the organization sort of was going down one path and we kind of did a full 180, and it all makes 100% sense. But going back to, it started with the nuts and bolts. It started with build it, they will come, to who are we first, because that's who they're buying. Let's focus on that first.
Yeah, and that's been a big contention of mine that I've definitely mentioned on the show with various guests before. It's like, if you can't answer that question of who are we before you're starting to sling products everywhere, I'm never going to tell anyone that anything's impossible. I'm not big on that. I always think anything is possible, but you're going to have significant more challenges than you would if you can actually answer a question of who am I? Where am I going? What am I doing?
People are buying you. They're not buying the thing.
And they're buying an experience, and they're buying on emotion. 100% agree. We got to take this break, but we will be right back with my man, Adam Petrucci. He's head of product at the Natural Dog Company. Stay with us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Always Friday with me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. We are chatting with longtime compadre of mine, Adam Petrucci. He's head of product at the Natural Dog Company. And for those of you watching out there in TV land, that's Tito after a bath. That's Adam's dog that my daughter Sloan can't get enough of, which as we get into the madness segment here, Adam, one big piece of madness that I think of with you and Tito lately is I know a lot of folks throughout my life who've had Chihuahuas, some family members, and for the most part, I can't stand any of them. They're loud and annoying and never stop. And Tito's a lot of fun so far. He looks like a walking mustache, but he's a lot of fun so far.
Yeah, man, it's not the breed. It's how you raise them. Like there's some nature, there's some nurture, of course, that's always. But I mean, even look at your dog. Like, so I joked with Steve when we first introduced Tito to Samson, it's Steve's Bernedoodle. Samson's a nut job. And we were like, well, I don't know how these two are going to get along. One's like the size of a shoebox and the other one's like a, maniac. And then you see them now. And I looked at a picture of like, they're inseparable. I sent Steve a picture of them a while back and I'm like, this reminds me of us when we were 16. Like, they were just like that. And it's almost like I can go as deep as being like, are they so much like us that they connect better or are, like this, so you can go off on a tangent and like go real philosophical with it. But I think a lot of it has to do with they take on our characteristics and they become in a lot of ways us. So of course they're going to connect like the parents do. And it's like, it's the sweetest thing. And another part of the Samson thing, you said it in your own words, right? Samson used to be a little bit rambunctious, a little bit wild, a little bit erratic.
He still is.
But a little bit less. So we started babysitting Samson a lot when Steve goes away, and we now leave Tito with the Fries when we go away. And they're both a little bit more well-rounded and relaxed as dogs. And there's
no doubt about it. And I've tried to use that as an argument with my wife to get a second dog now that we've been in the suburbs for 10 years. And she's like, yeah, no way.
And a lot of people, I think, too, like they don't put the effort in. Like when we first got Tito, like this was my thought process. This is how in I am to what I'm doing right now. We didn't have a dog. I'm like, I work for a dog company. I love dogs. We need a dog. At this time, I was like, I need to be able to test supplements on it. Well, it turns out it wasn't about anything to do with the supplements itself. I needed him to understand the interaction, the emotional connection, so I can talk to people better. But long story short, I mean, I was the first one to socialize him. When he was the size of a Coke can, I had him walking around on a leash. The other day, last week, we went to visit Erica's parents. We just got engaged. Went to go visit them in Florida. I had a Chihuahua on a leash in Newark Airport. He was fine. Like, fine. Big dogs, small dogs, people. I've never, like, I'm looking at him, I'm looking at Erica, I'm like, have you ever seen that before? And she's like, no. I'm like, okay, because it's like completely normal to us now, but that's like not normal stuff. So they are who you make them. You're just like a kid.
Yeah, it's he was a Coke can, and now he's like a 40 ounce, I would say, at this point.
Yeah,
But,
he's like 9 pounds, big for a Chihuahua, still a ferret. Yeah,
but no, it's like I throw a picture up in the background of us. I think that was Maddie's
that was Matt's engagement.
bachelor party. Maddie's
I
bachelor
think
party.
yeah.
So that's even us in our 30s, and that's going back like almost 15 years already. So it's part of the madness for today is, we've known each other for, it's going on like 30 years at this point, and me and you have always connected in a way that exemplifies the nuts and bolts discussion of really diving diving into the deep end of the pool, and go like we could talk for hours about stuff that people would not be able to follow for 10 minutes. But the same things that I've realized in the last couple of years, and it's not like we haven't talked about it. We've talked about it plenty. The same things I've realized in the last couple of years, I feel like are really benefiting you at this point, as far as how you're looking at the work that you're doing and trying to bring the human element to it. It's kind of a really fun thing to see.
There was a lot of self-study with me. Like, here. So this isn't supposed to sound like, in fact, it's embarrassing, but we gravitate towards each other because, often I always consider myself sort of the architect or the craftsman. But like, if you throw us through one of those personality tests, we're the scholars. In a lot of ways, in general, often we're the smartest voices in the room. And I always like to, no, but it comes across, you sound pompous, I sound pompous, we look like jerks. It's not always, it's not intentional, but the changing of the theology there is, I'm thinking about the wrong things. And in context, I'm not the smartest person in the room, and nor do I ever want to be. So it's having enough humility to say, like, I've been focusing on the wrong stuff, or I need to put more emphasis on me, so I can make myself more in that mix or relatable to the people that I'm furnishing solutions. And that's where it gets, like I said, it's hard. So did you want me to go through sort of like,
I want to go back to something for a second, because some of the stuff that you've done professionally brushes up against some of the stuff also that you're very passionate about. Example, you're crazy into biking, right? So I remember this like it was yesterday. You decided that you wanted to buy a beach cruiser and completely take it apart and put it back together as an e-bike, an electric bike.
No,
and you did.
Actually, the story was, so going back to my childhood, this was when I was a chubby little geek with no friends and still trying to figure out my way as a 12-year-old one parent.
You definitely had friends back then. See, this was
even before you. So I built this thing. My buddy Scott, who I've been friends with since literally the third grade, he had this like old 70s bomber piece of junk. And I affectionately named it Gadget Bike. The thing had fog lights and stereos and you name it. I was that guy.
Pee Wee Herman bike, yeah.
It was pretty much that bad. So I'm engaged the second time now. The first time, my fiance, she got me this beach cruiser as a gift. And without getting into the nuts and bolts of bicycles, the componentry and the geometries and everything made it literally impossible to do anything with. So at that time, I was like, I just want to challenge. I want to see if I could do it. I want to see what skills I still have. So I converted this thing from a fully rigid to a fully suspended, and then I did e-bike. So welding, and I didn't weld since college, and even then I sucked at it. I wanted to see if I could do it. That was it. That was the whole thing of the project. It was just to see if I could do it. And it turned out, and it was supposed to be like this rat rod, like junky looking thing. I can't let things go like that. So it turned out to be this really cool thing. And I built this thing back in 2015. And you want to talk about like doors and opportunities opening when you would never think. I built it. I put it in storage, didn't think about it. This happened about 3 months ago. I made friends with a bike shop owner in the Highlands where I go to ride every weekend. And I told him about it. I showed him a picture. He's like, no way. What do you mean that? So I brought it in. And mind you, I built it in 2015. I rolled it into some late night event that he was having with all of his bike guys that knew their stuff, either bike shop owners, racers, whatever. I rolled this thing in and people were like, where'd you get that? I'm like, I made it. They're like, you what? I'm like, yeah, I made it 15 years ago. I'm like, what?
Well, 15 years. It was 2015? 2015?
10 years ago. Yeah. 10 years ago. And it turns out he got so much interest. He's like, hey, you make more of these? He had it in front of his brand new store for about 2 months, which I thought was amazing. This guy, Jason, the Highlander in the Highlands, super cool guy. amazing shop, like in tune with his audience. He had this thing, like this meant so much to him that he had it sitting outside of his shop for the first 2 months of his brand new business. Like, Jason, I love you. But I just thought that was the coolest thing. And it also said to me, like, shit, I never meant this to be a business, but I mean, look how it could be. So it's about doing it's stuff that matters to you. And if you got passion when you're doing it, even at whatever, 9 years old, 10 years old, this thing, people wanted it. And it's got nothing to do with the components I used. It's like I set out to make something that wasn't dorky like every other e-bike. I set out to make something that was kind of fun and cool. I set out to make something that even the most skilled bike mechanic would look at and be like, that can't possibly work. But it fosters appeal. It fosters appeal. And it's all about going back to your passion thing. It doesn't matter what it is. Funnel it in, and it's something that people want.
It's like having a conversation piece, right? Like as crazy as it is, I have this phone case on my work cell phone because my daughter Hayden put it on last year or whatever. And I talked about it on the show to joke around for a bit. But when I throw my phone on the table during a meeting or whatever, it's funny as hell conversation starter. I'm like, oh yeah, in case you need to figure out whose phone this is, that's mine. But to get back to the e-bike for a second, I rode that thing personally, and I think it was after a couple of adult beverages and late at night with the lights on and everything. But holy crap, like that thing is, I mean, typical e-bike goes what, like 20 miles an hour? Yeah, this thing is like 40 miles an hour.
It's not even that. No, this is another insight. So Jason, he's like, try this thing. He puts me on a $12,000 e-mountain bike. He put me on a $11,000 like just road or commuter e-bike. And I'm riding these things. The mountain bike was a little bit fun. But still, it wasn't that like visceral like this thing. You got like listen, I manhandled and rigged sort of suspensions to work in ways that they shouldn't work. And when you're on this thing, there's a real visceral experience. When you're on these crazy new stuff, it's different. It's not. I'm like, yeah, the thing was fast, but I got nothing out of that. When you ride something like that's not like rickety, but like handmade, there's so much going on. That's like, this is a real experience. Like they still don't make that. It was neat. It was totally two sides of the spectrum. It was something that I never meant to turn into any kind of perspective business. But not only does it hold relevancy today as much as it did back in 2015, God knows what I could have done with it back then. But like you were saying, like just put that focus on something that means something to you, and it's always going to win.
Yeah, and I almost couldn't think of a better way to exemplify that idea. Is, you know, it's something when you would take a look at it or you put it in a store window or something, it's a product. It's something that you can touch and feel and be like, wow, this is cool. But when you start getting into the story behind it and everything, like that's where people are blown away. They're like, I'm sorry, what, you built this? Like, what do you mean you built this? It's like, well, I got this piece of crap $175 beach cruiser bike, and I can't ride anything like that. He's like, you're crazy. Like your attention to detail, including everything in the background in your home that you live in. I knew there was no way that you would ride a bike like that that didn't have any bells and whistles. So, like you go to outfit it, and you come up with something, and this is going on 10 years ago, where people look at it today and they're like, holy crap, can I get one of those? Can I order it right now?
Like, that's a package I've never seen before. That's not, and hopefully we'll have time to get into it, but that authenticity, and I know people throw that word around a lot lately, that authenticity is tangible. Oh, so you need to either be a total bike geek like myself, or if you're working in the pet space, get a dog. Use your experience with your cat. Be as intimate with them as you can. Otherwise, you're not going to understand what it is you're making or selling. You'll have no connection with your consumer. So it's all in and of the same. You know, it helps to like it to begin with. I love animals, and I love bikes. But you know, no matter what it is, you got to embody it for it to be worth anything.
So the natural dog company just supplements products for dogs, or you have stuff for Austin there as well?
We just do dogs for now. We do chew supplements. We do oil supplements. We're doing a new line. I don't want to get too far out because it's not introduced yet. But our story is whole food foundational nutrition for dogs. So anything within that space.
Awesome. There is something along the lines of madness that I still want to ask you, but we got to take this quick break. So I'm gonna tee up the next segment with this question, but we'll be right back with my buddy Adam Petrucci. He is head of product for the Natural Dog Company. Stay with us, everyone.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Always Friday with me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. We are chatting with my buddy, longtime friend, Adam Petrucci. He is head of product for the Natural Dog Company. Natural dog supplements, solutions to traditional remedies, food treats, topicals, etc. that have all kinds of chemicals. This stuff doesn't. It's natural stuff for your dog. If you guys,
Foundation, whole food foundational nutrition for dogs.
Sorry, whole food foundational nutrition for dogs. I'm going to stamp that into my brain from now on. We've talked about Adam's wonderful fiance. Congratulations once again. So that's Erica with Austin in the background hanging out. So Ad, this is the message part of the show. The whole idea with this thing when I started it was from weekend insight to Monday impact. Everyone's going to go get loaded this weekend. It's St. Patty's. I was told not to say St. Patty's Day. You can't say that. St. Patrick's Day. And I know that's your middle name too. So nice fun fact for everybody out there. But you gave a lot of great messaging in the last segment, which I want to continue. Before we get there, I got to ask you a question about this thing that I saw on social media. And it was one of these dog pictures. What was going on here? Is this dog brushing his own teeth? What's going on?
Without any kind of verbal context, I have no idea.
I just want to know, can I train my dog to brush his own teeth somehow? Because that would be really cool if I could.
Yeah, no. However, we do dental treats that clean. So a lot of times with dogs, when they eat commercial dog foods, kibble, they don't have the same digestive enzymes in their mouth as we do. So they get a lot of plaque buildup. So you really got to give them some kind of dental treat, something to make sure that you get that plaque off the teeth before they get gingivitis and stuff. Big thing.
Yeah. Yet another thing I need to be doing for Samson that I'm not doing, right?
You should. If you feed him a lot of dry food, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember when I first got Wilson back in the day, which was 20 years ago already, it's like the greenies were the popular things. You remember those things that look like the green toothbrush and they chew on it, turns into a green disgusting mess everywhere? I remember they had some bad press and some problems with the brand and the product and all that, right?
Just give him edible treats. I know we tried the greenies thing with Tito, and he eats them. Plastic can't be good to eat them.
Yeah, nice. And I'm sorry for all those toys that Samson is eating of Tito's. It's he's got a bad toy destruction habit.
It's fine. Eric has got a big toy buying habit, so it evens itself out.
She has a big buying everything habit.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the messaging, because you hit on it towards the end of the last segment to me, and it's, it's not just limited to this. Like, you have all kinds of fun messaging that you could send out to the world, but the concept of authenticity, it's kind of like you said, it's one of those words that some people throw around like it's a buzzword. Like, there's all kinds of buzzword and marketing rhetoric these days, but we talked about it a couple segments ago. It's like trying to figure out who you are. It's one of those things that's kind of both personal and business alike, right? I thought I had myself figured out at 24 or whatever, 25. And when I look at it now, just like I had some things figured out. I was nowhere near having anything figured out. And, nowadays I'm going to be 44 years old. I don't know if I necessarily have everything figured out, but I feel a lot closer, and like the messaging that I'm trying to get out, and really like the impact I'm trying to leave on the world. I feel a lot more comfortable getting it out there. But there's a lot of pursuing your passion, which you're doing a lot more of these days, and it's leading to being able to generate some awesome products that connect on a human level with those around you. But it doesn't have much to do with all the nuts and bolts piece of things. It has to do with the human feeling and the human connection.
I think the wisdom, you're always looking for, like, I always joke around, like, what is the upside to getting it? The wisdom isn't the knowledge base.
Right.
You get it. Even you do have it. The wisdom, it's two things. It's being comfortable enough with yourself to know that it's okay to not know. To know that it's not okay to stagnate, get into something that you think you know completely everything about, and then just stay there. That's not what life is about. The wisdom is the knowledge and understanding that no one knows everything, and everything is constantly in flow. That's just the way things are. The wisdom is to know that, especially if you're in product, you're never selling a thing. You're selling, in our case, in pet, it's a relationship. You're selling them one more moment. You're not selling them liver and kidney supplement. You're selling them joy. You're selling them another series of days, months of joy and happiness together. You're selling them more memories. So, like, I know it sounds foofy and fruity, or it could, but a lot of these times when I'm creating, so we have our products, just to give you like a quick synapse, we have our product training decks, which tells you everything about the product itself. Doesn't tell you why people want to buy it, though. And I'll explain a little bit. Like, it'll tell you that it's got glucosamine. It'll tell you that it's got X amount of this. It'll tell you it's got this, and this is why it makes it better. It isn't telling you what the consumer is connecting to that makes them yearn to have that. And in a lot of the storytelling, I was joking around with my boss, who's the CFO of Natural Dog, Brian, who happens to be one of the most. It's funny because we took on one of those personality tests, and we were like the same. And he's like the brightest guy that I know. So I'm like, something must have gotten screwed up because I'm not on this guy's level. But he's turned out to be like the most nurturing, supportive, knows how to not even get the best out of people, knows how to get people to just want to give their best. And like, really, he's just a great guy. But long story short, I was joking with him the other day, and I'm like, I'm man crying right now. You got to go so deep on some of these stories. Like, we have a skin and coat thing, or the essential fatty acids thing. And you remember Gizmo growing up.
Yep.
I remember how mean I was to him. This poor dog had skin allergies, and he always stunk, like smelled really bad. I was like, whenever anyone came over, I would be like, I'm like that little jerk kid. Don't touch him. He stinks.
Yep.
I think partially my obsession with animals now is sort of like compensating for how mean I was as a kid, because part of it was like, he didn't know any better. And then I think about like how he looked at me, like it was just this defeated. It wasn't his fault he stunk. It was actually our fault probably for what we were feeding him. Yeah. And it breaks my heart. And to get to that level with the storytelling, that's what authenticity is. It was an experience that happened with me, and something that I want to do better in the future. And that may be something that people can relate to and say, yeah, like that's.
We gotta wrap up here in just a moment, but I wholeheartedly agree. I know you and I both have been in situations with jobs and like new employment of like, oh, we need this product, we need that product, we need this offering, blah, blah, blah. And both you and I have been like, oh, but what's the story? Like, what's the brand? What's the mission statement? Like, and people are like, huh, who, what? And I've always had this sentiment that if you can't tell a consistent story internally, again, nothing's impossible, but you're going to have issues telling it externally. And so, I think you and I have both run into that a number of times.
Real quick, these are the smartest people that I know in business. I was brought in, make the system. Make a bunch of products and we'll be fine. We have enough of a marketing story. But long story short, we did it that way. And we have a bunch of great products that are legitimately better than everyone else. And we parked a lot of them because we got to a point where it's like, are we saying what we need to say strong enough? We could introduce products until we're blue in the face. We only have one moment to communicate our vision, who we are to the consumer. That is so literally our entire product development pipeline and roadmap. We're pausing to get that one element correct first, because we understand now that that's the most important part.
You guys need to check out The Natural Dog Company. It's online. They have a website. They're on social media. They have some great content going on. Since we have to wrap up here in just a moment, Adam, I want to share with everybody the answers that you gave me to my 3 questions. Who's your favorite movie or TV show character? What's your favorite movie or TV show? And what's your favorite musical instrument? And who's the artist you'd like to hear play it? And since you and I are both kind of passionate about this subject and been talking about it forever, I couldn't help but laugh my ass off at a bunch of these. But your first character you mentioned was Clark W. Griswold, which huge favorite of mine. I think of him more so in The Christmas Vacation when I think of you than I do in any other vacation movie, but absolutely Clark W. Griswold. You also said Deadpool, which as far as warped superheroes go, which arguably you're a warped superhero of mine, that actually fits pretty well. But getting into your favorite movie or TV show, you mentioned the Boondock Saints first, which is not what I thought of when I think of you, but considering St. Patrick's Day is on Sunday, a movie about 2 Irish Catholic brothers who are vigilantes, probably not a bad fit, actually. It's pretty good for the weekend, right?
This is where they came from. Relatability. Who, like, other than maybe Bill Murray, like, who else is more relatable than Chevy Chase in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation? Or, I mean, even Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool.
I want you to hold the Bill Murray thought for a second, because I'm going to come back to that. You also said Gone in 60 Seconds, which both of us are car guys. I don't know if I would have picked Eleanor as the top pick in that out of the 50 cars they were taking, but all the same, great movie. The movie I'm surprised you didn't say, brother, is Ghostbusters. Huge favorite of yours, and you didn't say it.
And I was trying to, who I would embody a little bit. Oh my God.
I just wanted to see your face on Vigo the Carpathians thing, because I know you like Ghostbusters too. Also.
So that's how I would look with a normal forehead.
Exactly.
No, I thought Deadpool and I thought Chevy Chase, they were the most relatable. Like, often, you know me, I throw in like an F-bomb for a little bit of shock value because you get everyone in the room right away. Like Ryan, the Chevy Chase one and the Ryan Reynolds, they're just so like down to earth, normal, relatable, but still really good guys. And the Boondock Saints, they're the underdog heroes, right? Like, I want to fix everything.
I always like rooting for the underdog heroes. It's huge. You said piano and Billy Joel, which is probably one of my most popular answers that I get. And I figured, since I know you a damn long time, I figured we'd have some pictures of when Billy Joel was actually a young man. So,
oh my goodness,
not necessarily an angry young man, but.
For color, I have to, I grew up in Hicksville, Long Island, so I think it's part of the culture there. That Billy Joel is always my guy.
Absolutely. One of my guys as well, considering piano was one thing I was actually able to do at some point. Adam, thank you so much for making an appearance on the show. It's always fun to ask one of our crew to come on and do this. Again, I am refereeing the Harlem Wizards versus the local All-Stars tomorrow at Manalapan Englishtown Middle School, the game at 1:00. If you guys are down, come down and hang out. It's bound to be some type of entertaining. Who knows? Do I know anything about being a referee? No. So it's going to be a blast. Absolutely. You should actually come for sure. It'll be fun. Once again, we appreciate you guys joining us here on Always Friday. We hope you guys got some weekend insight to make a Monday impact. Have a great weekend, a safe St. Patrick's Day. We will see you next week, Friday, live, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on talkradio.nyc. Take care, everybody. See you then.